So you've heard it all already. Housing's on the rise. It's great. It's crashing. We're in a bubble. The bubble is bursting. So right here, right now, we're going to lay it all down and let the experts duke it out. So you have all the facts. You can decide whether to move your money into the market or out. Joining me now in total disagreement are real estate pros, Dani Babb and Alex Charfen. Great to have you both on the show. Dani, I'm going to let you go first. Are we in a bubble?
We are in a bubble, and we're starting to see the beginning of what I believe will be the bubble softening and not having quite as extreme of a landing, if you will call it that, as we saw in 2006 and 2007. But if we look at the numbers that were released today, for example, we obviously saw over 12% year-over-year increase in prices. And some say, okay, well, that's awesome. The market's doing really well. The housing market's sustainable and so on. But if we just look at the smaller numbers within this larger number, that's the month-over-month gains, we see it was about 1.8%. That to me is indicative of a market that's still growing in price, but the growth is not quite as steep.
Alex, we've seen double-digit gains in prices month after month for 5 months. That seems, I mean, that feels very bubblicious to me, no?
You know, it does feel like a bubble, but we have to remember where we started here. Prices were at historic all-time lows, historic high affordability, and we had mortgage rates that were low as they've ever been in the history of mortgage finance. So what's happened is that has driven prices up as demand increased in a market where we were severely underbuilt. For the last 40 years, we built over 1 million homes every year until 2008. In 2009, 10, 11, 12, and this year, we will not build even 1 million homes. So we have a market where supply and demand is at play here. And to say it's a bubble that's going to have a soft landing, you know, I mean, aren't we really just marketing and doomsaying right now? Housing has gone up. The increases have slowed, but that doesn't mean that they're going to recede and go backwards. Housing is still an incredible market to be in. Like your previous guest said, it's a commodity. Buy housing. It's going to go up if we have any type of inflation.
Alex, that is so hard for people to listen to out there who are underwater, who got killed in this last round, the housing debacle. Dani, how do you respond to what Alex just said?
Well, first of all, 10% of the top 200 markets in the country hit brand new peaks. Now, I'm not talking about peaks since the bubble. I'm talking about entirely new peaks. We also have 24 of those markets, roughly 12% of those markets, that are about to hit their peak. They're within 5% of that. That's not a normal, sustainable market. We have areas like California and Nevada that are just above and just below 9% unemployment. California just below and Nevada just above. How can they justify a 28% year-over-year increase in sales, and in some pockets of those markets, a 300% increase? That's totally illogical. And look at the affordability index, which started at 210 in January and is down to about 157, I believe, now in this month, where 100 is the point at which income is around mortgage qualification rates. That doesn't make sense.
Although, Alex, I mean, hang on. I just want to address one thing that she just said. If prices are back to new all-time highs, higher than they were before the bubble burst, then that does kind of make you feel like maybe housing is a good investment because it does always come back. Wouldn't those numbers kind of argue that, Alex?
No, housing does come back. It's a great investment, and we do have certain places in the country where we're seeing new highs. The reason we're seeing highs is supply and demand. We underbuilt homes for the last 5 years. Now, when we look at housing affordability and the index, and to say that it's come down from 210 to only 158, what that means is that the average income is 58% more than what you need to buy the average home today. That is incredibly high. That means most people can afford a home. They're buying them. We don't have enough inventory, and that's why pricing is going up. So it's very, very difficult to see how today we see housing backsliding. Now, there are macroeconomic factors that can change anything. But today, given what we know, we're not going to see a price decrease
Dani, go ahead and respond to that.
Most economists would argue, and it's truly most, that when the affordability index has 3 straight months of decline, that's a potential red sign for housing. And it's all great that, yeah, in the long run, you can make money in real estate. We understand that. But we have real life factors like people need to move, need to be able to sell their home quickly. They have to change jobs and so on. So it's not that simple for someone actually purchasing a home to live in. It's not just an investment for most people.
Alex, interest rates are rising. Income growth is not growing. I mean, it's basically stagnant. Those are things that it seems like would undermine this upward trend.
You know, it's totally true they could. However, we need to qualify that. Interest rates have gone up to 4.5%. Let's be honest, that used to be the 2.5-year introductory rate on a Hyundai,
But it doesn't
not a
matter.
30-year
I hear
mortgage
that
on a
argument
house.
all the time, and that doesn't matter when you're talking about people getting into the market. They're looking at it rising, and they're saying, "Oh well, forget it." You know, I mean, it's you're comparing it to what has
Hey, I need
happened
to
over
jump
the
in
last couple
now.
of years. Okay, go ahead.
So there's two things they're looking at. Either they're saying, hey, it's going up and I don't have an opportunity anymore, or it's going up, I need to jump into the housing market right now. You know, let's take a real life scenario. Somebody who buys a home today, when we're looking at 1 or 2% appreciation per month, within less than a year, they have the value in that home that they would need to sell. That is a very good investment, even if somebody's looking at a 2 or 3 year ownership period today, given what we know today.
Dani, I feel like that's not a real world example. I mean, I don't know a lot of people who own a house for a year in this current market and they can cover the friction costs that it took to get into the house, to move, to originate the mortgage. I mean, you know, whatever you had to pay the brokers on either side. I don't think no matter what kind of increase we're talking about now at current rates, you can't afford to move in a year.
No, you're absolutely right. There's a reason that we use the 10-year bond to peg mortgage rates, and because people hold their homes between 7 and 10 years, so it's not an accurate assessment. But you know, to the supply and demand issue, it was largely Fed-driven because of unrealistic long-term interest rates. It's not just normal, natural supply and demand. If it were, I wouldn't have the same concerns that I do about the market.
Alex, real quick, last word. Go ahead.
So we had all-time lows in home building from 2009 to this year. We underbuilt by 1 million homes a year. When you have a million home deficit in a market, you're going to have a supply and demand issue. If you look at the numbers, it's there.
I know, you keep saying that, though, and I wonder about all the foreclosures, the shadow inventory. Anyway, I'm not sure we settled it, but we heard a lot of good points on both sides, and I appreciate both your wisdom. Thank you for coming on.